The Frangitelli Mirror by G.R. Thomas, independently published, 2023. In 1915, a book was stolen. A crow appeared, and fate dealt its hand. Rose Carbonelli sees ghosts. She doesn't sleep. She watches every corner, studies every shadow, listens to the screams that no one else hears. Rose Carbonelli is terrified. Her father hasn't been heard from since he volunteered to go to war in 1915. The money ran out a year ago. Her mother, Edith, is fading away. Rose needs a job to save them both, and an excuse to flee the ghost of her home. When Rutherford House advertises for a lady's maid, Rose seizes the opportunity. A wage to save her mother, food to fill her belly, and an escape from the dead that occupy the shadows. It seems just so perfect. But is it the escape Rose has been dreaming of? Is there truth to the rumors about Rutherford House? What lurks within the bones of it? Why has the Lady Mary Rutherford not been seen in over a decade? Is this the perfect escape, or is it another nightmare Rose could never have imagined? Wow, just wow. First off, who knew Australian Gothic was a thing? I didn't, but if this book is any indication to a whole new genre, I'm completely down for it. The Frangitelli Mirror takes place in Australia in the early 1900s. Rose and her mother Edith are struggling through severe poverty, selling anything they can do without just to make ends meet. Rose's father has gone off to war, and her mother's hopes ride on the idea that her husband can return any day now. But Rose knows better. She has seen her father's ghost. He haunts the shadows of their home, along with her brother that drowned sometime earlier. In fact, Rose sees ghosts everywhere, even people she doesn't know. Anywhere she goes, haunting images plague her at every turn, and she feels that she is going insane. But Rose hasn't always been like this. It all starts when she finds a strange, handwritten book that was dropped by a mysterious old woman in the market. Even though it is written in a language Rose cannot read, she keeps the book rather than return it. She feels these visions start because of her dishonesty. Rose tries to push on with life, keeping what she sees a secret from her mother and everyone else. Who would believe her anyway? She and her mother do their best to eke out a living, taking in sewing work when they can find it. But they're not the only people desperate for work, not by far. The whole town is being hit hard by the effects of a world war. Ignoring her ghostly visions, Rose travels through town looking for work when she stumbles upon an ad for a live-in servant role at Rutherford House, an old mansion far away, a mansion and family that carries many rumors. What rumors those are never become completely clear, but it seems no one has anything good to say about the place. But work is work, right? That's how Rose sees it anyway. Plus, it's a live-in position. The idea of food and an escape from the hauntings of her home in town is too much for her to resist. Rose interviews for the position with Mr. Borgia, the caretaker, overseer, power of attorney, so to speak, and is offered the job on the spot. This catches Rose off guard due to her lack of experience, but again, leaving home and getting much needed food and money are at the forefront of her mind. Things at Rutherford House couldn't be as bad as at home, right? Well, you're going to have to read it to find out for sure. Let's just say, though, the story goes from the movie The Sixth Sense type feel, then when things get truly haunting, dark, and outright horrific once they arrive at Rutherford House. We have ghosts, a strange old home, and one of the best mad woman in the attic roles I've seen in a long time. Gothic tales tend to blur the lines between gothic and horror, but this one takes a dive head first into horror in the later parts of the book that get me flipping pages, not able to get enough of it. Speaking of being a page turner, let me give a fair warning for the start of the book though. For the first few chapters, it feels like it progresses pretty slow. Still, it starts out with an intriguing strangeness that I loved, but I was worried that the book would end up being slow and full of useless info dumps. For example, we have foxes that get into Rose and Edith's chicken coop and kill all of their chickens. That takes 2 to 3 chapters. That had me pretty worried about how the rest of the book would be, but trust me, get through chapter 6 or so and the rest of the book makes it well worth your time. To be fair, the slowness of the beginning could be viewed by some as necessary to get the reader into the mindset of the sheer poverty and starvation Rose is experiencing, and that being the drive that keeps her at Rutherford House despite all of the strangeness going on there. For me, it wasn't needed though. My sheer curiosity as a reader would have let me overlook her motivations. Once we as readers arrive at Rutherford House, we're in for a wild ride. Then it's a slow acclimation to a new surrounding, then head-first surge into craziness, only to pull you back to wonder what is happening before throwing you head-first back into the fray. If you're looking for a classic ghost story or haunted mansion gothic tale, you're fresh out of luck here. This tale gets really dark, and everything cliche short of the mansion itself gets thrown right out the window. This was a crazy original idea, at least for me, and I loved every minute of it. Our main character Rose was crafted wonderfully. She's in her late teens, on the cusp of womanhood for the time frame of the story. The bleakness of the economy of her town and their situation work really well, and you find yourself caring for and worrying about Rose early on. Rose's thoughts constantly conflict with each other, and you truly get the feeling that she's on the verge of a mental breakdown. Even though you can pretty much guess things at Rutherford House isn't going to be exactly what Rose is hoping for, you still find yourself hoping it all works out for her, or either screaming at the book to "don't do it!" That's what drew me in early and got me through the slower parts that I mentioned before. I love a character-driven story, and the writer makes you care about Rose way early on, so I had to stick around to find out what happened. Mr. Borgia, the man in charge of things at Rutherford House, is a strange one, and if you're looking for it, his strangeness becomes apparent at his and Rose's first meeting. It's obvious there's something about him hiding right behind the surface. Rose senses it too, but again, the poor girl is starving. Rose is barely able to survive the job duties at Rutherford House, and would have failed early on if not for Martha, the cook and basically the only other servant at the place. The house seems to run off hired help as quick as it can bring it in, but Martha is too hardened and crabby to let it affect her. Still, there is a silent affection in some of her dealings with Rose that can't be overlooked. Mary Rutherford, the lady of the house, is probably the most damaged, mysterious, outright crazy characters I've encountered in a gothic tale. At first, she's the cliche mad woman in the attic type character, but the obsession with constant light and mirrors take it to the next level. That, coupled with her bizarre obsession with a handmade porcelain doll and the fact that she stays completely veiled at all times, keeps you digging through the book to find out more. The book contains a perfectly dark atmosphere and completely fed my need for gothic ambiance, and the climax of the story throws in enough horror and gore that I was completely caught off guard. I hope the next one is as good as this one was. Only time will tell, I guess. Let's get started and find out. Until next time, find yourself a good book and enjoy a break from reality.